No one in the Hall of Sovereigns expected the human to touch her. Not beneath the suns, not before the 12 thrones, not while thousands of nobles watched in silence. Princess Alira of the Vair Empire stood in silver, smiling as protocol demanded. While the treaty behind her promised peace in letters meant to hide cruelty, because once the ceremony ended, she would be sent to the Void Monastery, where inconvenient heirs vanished behind sacred language and locked gates. Earth's envoy was supposed to bow, sign, and leave. Instead, Commander Elias Varan stepped forward, saw the chains beneath her bracelets, and took her hand. The entire empire gasped. Masks turned, guards stiffened. The choir above forgot next note because among the Vair, touching royalty before witness was a legal act older than the empire itself. One wrong breath now, and the galaxy would ignite. The Empress rose from her throne with the authority of someone who had never needed to hurry. Her crown hummed with dormant weapons. Senators lowered their eyes. Courtiers braced for blood, but Elias did not let go. He only moved closer to Alira, enough for every camera in the chamber to see this was no accident. He had chosen her side. "You know the law you just invoked?" the Empress said, her voice cold enough to frost the translation field. And Elias answered before fear could swallow the room. "I do," he said, by first code. "If a royal is touched before the thrones and does not refuse, the right of shelter begins. The one who stands beside them becomes their sworn protector. And no crown may seize the sheltered without breaking its own founding law." Whispers crashed through the balconies because he was right. It was an ancient clause, buried, ceremonial, and humans were never supposed to know it. That was the moment the room stopped seeing him as reckless and started seeing him as dangerous. Lord Varkesh laughed first, sharp, jeweled, contemptuous. While voting to burn human border colonies and call it strategy, a Mudworld officer cites our sacred law to steal an imperial daughter, he sneered. How charming, several nobles joined him. Because power always mistakes mercy for weakness. But Elias did not answer Varkesh. He faced the galleries instead. And his voice carried like steel. "Earth did not come here for your favor," he said. "We came because this treaty is a burial with better lighting. And because no civilization worthy of the stars should pretend exile is peace." Then the doors opened behind him, and the gasp returned. Not from scandal now, but from recognition. Into the hall walked witnesses the Empire had not planned for. The Kareth envoy saved by Terran rescue ships. The miners of Dovos, whose children human medics had carried through vacuum fire. The monks of Surat, whose libraries Earth engineers rebuilt under bombardment. One by one they entered, silent, unarmed, impossible to dismiss. Because truth had arrived with receipts. Alira had spent her life among liars. Beings who weighed affection like currency and called surrender wisdom. But humans were different in the most infuriating way. They kept doing the irrational thing and surviving it. They mourned strangers, protected civilians who could offer them nothing, and turned stubbornness into strategy. So often the galaxy mistook it for madness. She had seen footage from the war, Terran pilots staying behind to cover enemy evacuation routes, doctors treating hatchlings from fleets that had shelled their own stations, engineers sealing breaches that should have killed them. She had thought it sentiment, then arrogance, then something more frightening, principle. And now that principle was standing beside her in a chamber built to crush it. Elias did not ask whether she trusted him. He was offering something rarer, dignity, a choice, a line in the stars that said she would not be traded like a relic. So Alira did the one thing no one in the Empire expected. She closed her fingers around his hand, tightly, deliberately, publicly. And the Empire gasped again, louder this time. Because now the law was alive. That single motion broke the illusion holding the chamber together. Scholars in the archive booths started shouting over legal volumes. Senators received urgent messages from orbit. And on every screen in the Empire, the ceremony was already spreading live. Because Earth had not brought a battle fleet, it had brought a witness fleet. Every Terran vessel broadcasting the treaty text, the first code, the moment of contact, the princess's acceptance. The Empire could kill Elias, perhaps even Alira. But it could not kill the story, and stories were the one battlefield humans understood better than empires. Lord Varkesh reached for his sidearm anyway. Tyranny always does when argument fails. Yet before the weapon cleared its holster, a palace guard leveled her spear at his throat. Then another did the same. Then a third, gold armor turning not toward the human, but toward the noble who wanted the old order back. Their captain removed her helm, dropped to one knee before Alira and said, by first code, "The sheltered shall not be surrendered." The silence after that felt larger than space. Because the fracture was no longer rumor. It was loyalty changing sides in real time. The Empress looked from her daughter to the human, then to the soldiers, the witnesses, the cameras. The empire she had ruled through fear so long, it had begun to feel like gravity. And for the first time she seemed to understand the thing all conquerors learned too late. Obedience can be extracted. Tribute can be counted. Silence can be enforced. But once courage becomes visible, fear starts losing value. She did not scream. She did not order the fleets. She did something devastating. She measured the future and realized she could no longer own it. Then she sat, tired, and spoke the words that saved trillions. The right of shelter is recognized. The hall exploded. Outrage, relief, disbelief. History tearing itself open in a breath. Elias finally exhaled. Alira stepped forward beside him, not as a bargaining chip, but as a sovereign choice. And later the galaxy would argue about what had happened there. Lawyers would call it precedent. Strategists would call it information warfare. Poets would call it love, but the deeper truth was simpler. A human saw a hand the stars had already condemned, and took it anyway, not because it was safe, not because it was wise, but because somewhere inside the human soul burns a stubborn law older than any empire. If someone reaches from the fire, you reach back.